The Toronto Blue Jays roster is really starting to take place right now as they're starting to make their final moves, and they're dwindling down to a few more names that are battling for those final roster spots. So we'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as Yariel Rodriguez. He's been sent down, and he'll start the year in AAA. So we'll have that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And bear with me, it's the last day I'm going to be doing it from this setup here. Hopefully I'm back home and at my normal setup for opening day, as we're just a few days away, a couple of days actually.
Two sleeps.
Yeah, 2 sleeps. That's right. 4:07 on Tuesday is when the Toronto Blue Jays will take on the Tampa Bay Rays. And I'm really looking forward to it, Nick. I'm really excited for the season to start. And the roster is starting to take shape here. We're starting to see the final moves being made, and the Jays are really tackling those final roster spots. They're sending guys down, they're calling guys up, they're cutting guys, they're doing whatever they have to do to get ready for the season. And obviously, this is standard protocol here. We've seen this from the beginning of time. But Nick, the roster is starting to take shape, and some interesting moves at that as well. Maybe some guys that we thought could play a role early on in the season are not going to be doing that, and some guys that we were on the fence about are taking those final roster spots. So it's coming together, and we're ready for some baseball on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, 2 days away. It's pretty exciting. Quick reminder, hit the subscribe button before we get into it. 73% of you are watching are not subscribed, but let's just get right into it. A lot of stuff went down. We're going to discuss the roster moves that happened a couple days ago, but first we're going to get into Peter. This dropped a couple of hours ago, so very recently. That's Yariel Rodriguez, and we thought, given some of the injuries that have been happening to the starters and the bullpen guys, especially with Jordan Romano and Eric Swanson, that maybe Yariel Rodriguez would have potentially played a role, but this came out from Francis Romero saying Cuban right-hander Yariel Rodriguez was sent to AAA Buffalo and won't be on the Blue Jays opening day roster, but it is the most logical decision, taking care of his health and giving him a chance to properly build up. He is expected to get 2 to 3 starts in AAA before potentially coming up, and this was confirmed by, of course, the fairly well-known, if you're in the Jays community, Eric Truden confirmed it. And he also mentions that one sleeper name to watch is Wes Parsons, who is gaining momentum towards a spot with the uncertainty of Romano and Swanson. Wes could sneak into the roster. He had a very, very good spring. So, Peter, what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, we'll get into some of the other stuff after, but this is Yariel Rodriguez spring training stats. I mean, they were good, but he only pitched 5 innings because he was, I believe, delayed because of an injury there. And it makes the most sense considering he only pitched 5 innings, and he kind of didn't pitch at all last year in 2023 besides a couple innings in the World Baseball Classic. But I thought that maybe they would have given him a chance given the injuries, but it seems like they're going to go Wes Parsons' route instead.
Yeah, well, I think they really value him as a starter. At least that's what it looks like to us here. And they've been building him up. Obviously, we know that he didn't pitch last season. He was pitching in the NPB years before that, but obviously last year he didn't get that workload, and all he did was pitch in the World Baseball Classic. So you got to build him up and try to avoid serious injury, and you don't want him to get hurt the minute that he is ready to start and give you some length out of that rotation. So I think the Jays really see him as a starter long term, and they don't want to they don't want to mess with that. So they're allowing him to go down there and really hone into skills and get ready to be a starter, because as soon as next season there's going to be a big opening in that rotation with Yusei Kikuchi's contract off the books, and we don't know what we're going to get from Chris Bassett past this season. Who knows if he's going to come in and be able to contribute at the same level. He's getting older, and there's some uncertainties in that Blue Jays starting rotation past this season. So I think the Jays really want to take their time with Rodriguez. He doesn't have to contribute this season. Obviously, it would be nice, but they have that in their back pocket, and in doing so, they're really building him up, and they're making sure that he's ready to go once he is called up to the big league level. So I like it. Make sure he's ready to be a starter, because I think that's where his true value will lie. You sign him to a big deal, $32 million over 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, or 5 years. So he's gonna have to live up to that dollar figure, and that's a lot of money to pay to a reliever. So I think the Jays acknowledge that, and they want him to be a big time innings guy, and I think he can be that with the proper workload in AAA.
Yeah, it shows that they want him to be a starter, and his contract has a bunch of weird things in it with a lot of different mutual options. But like you said, 4 years. I was about to say the same thing. I mean, he is. It's going to be a long play for the Blue Jays. This isn't a 1 year signing where they need him to impact right away. They want him to be, probably based on what they're doing with him right now, a starter going forward. Because, like you mentioned, are as good as our rotation is, aside from Jose Barrios, there's really no clear-cut guys going forward. Obviously, Alec Manoah, if you want to include him, and Kevin Gosse and Bassett over the past couple years, or sorry, over the next couple years, it's going to be interesting what the roster will look like. So it's going to be very curious. Ricky Tiedemann coming up as well, but I think Yariel fits right into that, and he will be very, very good. But Peter, let's get into some of the other moves they made a few days ago, well, 2 days ago now. It feels like it was longer than that, but days are slow because the season's about to start. But Ernie Clement, as expected, Davis Schneider, kind of as expected, did have a very poor spring, unfortunately. And Daniel Vogelbach all made the Blue Jays opening day roster. And Vogelbach was the one we were debating between him and Votto. Votto getting hurt and playing one inning, it kind of was the solidifying factor here. Who knows? It seems like from the way reporters are speaking, Peter, that maybe Vogelbach will just be up for the couple week stretch that they have over the next the kind of the gauntlet for the first 10 games, and then see how he does, and maybe Votto will be able to come up. But he had a very solid spring. You can see here he had an 890 OPS and 37 at bats. He had 3 home runs. He did everything he had to do to make this team, and ultimately he was rewarded. And if he continues that, he'll keep a roster spot in the team. And if he doesn't, Joey Votto is in the shadows waiting if that's a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be so quick to write him off either, and it all depends how he performs, of course. But right, he's a lot younger than Joey Votto. Uh, I think he's got a bit more left in the tank in terms of power, in like compared to Joey Votto. So I don't know. I wouldn't be so quick to write him off and anoint Joey Votto as the guy to come up and take his spot. He had a really good spring. He earned that spot, and Votto had one at bat. He saw one pitch. Obviously, he
Home
socked a
run,
homer to
yeah.
center field just to make things a little bit more interesting. But still, I think Vogelbach really showed a lot of great things. He's got great plate discipline as well. So he's not a one trick pony. He's not an all or nothing type of hitter. Obviously, you don't want him to hit singles because that you'll need 3 hits to get him around to home plate. But still, he had a really good spring. He showed some great plate discipline, and he was swinging with a lot of ferocity, a lot more than he was showing in New York last year with the Mets. He hit a lot of singles last year, and he didn't get that many extra base hits or as many extra base hits as Mets fans would have wanted. So I think you got to give him a long look here to start the season, and he's going to be someone that is like an ace in the back pocket of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's not going to play all the time. He's probably not going to play much if we're being totally honest. But late in the game, when you're facing a guy who's throwing 98 out of the bullpen, who's got nasty stuff, that's when Daniel Vogelbach comes in, and that's when you have that home run threat off the bench, something that the Blue Jays haven't had in a long time. I can't remember them just being able to turn to the bench and someone that can go hit a home run for them. I don't know if anyone comes to mind for you, Nick, but like in terms of just pure power as a threat off the bench, someone that you know exactly what you're going to get out of, and Daniel Vogelbach, I think that's very valuable. And if he has a good 2 weeks to open up the season, then I guess you can say goodbye to Joey Votto, because why would you replace a 31-year-old who's doing well for you in favor of a 39-year-old guy who's about to turn 40 who is injury prone? It just doesn't make sense for the Blue Jays. So I'm glad where they're at right now with the roster, and I think this was the right move for them.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he's not going to start many games, if any, and a lot of that is due to the fact that he can't play first base anymore. At least he just doesn't play first base. But I mean, you said it, late innings against those elite pitchers, the specifically obviously the right-handed pitchers. I mean, he has the potential to come on and hit for absolute bombs. And the Jays in the past have given these extra roster spots to guys like Nathan Lucas and guys who don't really. You think of Cato from a couple years or a few years ago now, that would have been like guys who don't really hit for power. Now we have an absolute masher in theory coming off the bench, so it'll be very interesting. And then of course you have the normal guys who we expected. Ernie Clement, who seems to get a lot of. He'll probably get definitely some starts in there at some points, and Davis Schneider, who also kind of has that power there as well. But I think the positional versatility gave Davis Schneider the extra benefit. We saw him play the outfield. Clement we saw also play the outfield. So overall, any final thoughts, Peter? It's a couple days. We should have the official roster. I don't know. I'm assuming tomorrow at some point, or maybe early Thursday before the game. We'll definitely cover you with that. But getting very, very close to opening day.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I think in David Schneider's case, his start that he had last year with the Blue Jays really gave him a leg up in terms of competition, like compared to other guys. And I think his ceiling as well is very high, just in terms of plate discipline and power potential. as well. Like you got to look at all those factors with Davis Schneider, the positional versatility, like you mentioned as well, Nick. So I think everything is working in his favor to make the team. And yeah, he had a rough spring, but so did Yusei Kikuchi, and
Yep.
he was very good last year as well. So are we going to cut Yusei Kikuchi because he had a 15 ERA in the spring? No, I don't think Jays fans are ready to write him off. So obviously he's got more of a track record than David Schneider does, but still, you got to give him a long, extended look, considering how good he was last season, and he kept the Blue Jays in a lot of games, like where we were ready to write them off and oh wow, they could maybe miss the playoffs here. David Schneider was kind of a calming presence, even though he was a rookie. So I think you got to give him a long look. You got to give him that opportunity to play his way into some playing time, and I think he's going to earn that with every at bat that he takes at the big league level this year.
Yeah, definitely gave him the benefit of the doubt. And if he can go back to a semblance of, obviously he didn't finish the season well, but a semblance of a start, he'll be in good shape. And I think the Jays are in pretty good shape, obviously aside from the injuries. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. If you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now. And opening day is just 2 sleeps away, so it's very, very exciting. So see you guys in the next one.